Okay, so this is the hub that we've machined to fit the shaft, and what we've done is we've drilled and reamed this to a size. In this case it's actually 7/8 of an inch. What we're going to do now is we're going to broach a keyway in this bore here. In the bore, the groove we're going to put is called a keyway. In a shaft it's called a key seat. Then what we do is we take a piece of key and we put it between the shaft and the bore. So the bore will actually slide over. In this case it's a sleeve. It'll slide over the shaft, but it allows it to drive. As the shaft spins, this bushing will spin with it, or this sleeve will spin with it. Also too, the key acts as a braking point. So if something happens to jam, it'll actually break the key and not damage the components. So what we're going to do is we're going to push this keyway into this bore, and we're going to use a broaching kit. In order to use this broaching kit, we have to have a hole that goes through it. So I'm going to take a bushing and I'm going to set it down inside. The diameter of the bushing is very close to the diameter we need in the bore of this bushing, or this sleeve. I looked in the machinery handbook and I found the right size broach we need, and this is it here. This is a 3/16 broach, so that's the size that we will be using. I'd like you to notice the teeth on it. So every tooth is progressively further out. It's 3/1000 of an inch further out than the last tooth, except for the last three. They're all the same distance out. So we're going to set it up here in the press, and this one happens to be an arbor press, but you could use a hydraulic press, and we're going to bring it down on top of the broach. We're going to put a little bit of cutting oil on the broach, and we're going to start to pull this through. Now we want to be careful that we don't push the broach sideways. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to relieve the pressure and allow it to sit back in a relaxed position again. I'm going to put my hand on the bottom so I catch it as it comes down through. Okay. So what we've done is we've pushed the broach through this sleeve. And if we pull out this plug here, you can actually see that groove that is in here. Now again, looking in the machinery handbook, we can find the dimension from the bottom of the bore to the groove. And if we're not there yet, what I would suggest is flipping this over and coming in from the other side, in case that broach is starting to taper a little bit. And we'll set the broach up again, but this time we'll actually take a shim and put it in behind the broach. And we'll repeat the process again. A little bit of cutting oil. Again, I want to relieve the pressure on the broach. There's a lot of force cutting this groove inside this bore. So what we would do is we would repeatedly end up putting shims in the back here until we got out to the diameter we needed for this key seat. There's going to be burrs inside the bore and burrs at the top and bottom of this groove, and we would just take a file, probably a needle file, and clean that up until it slips nicely over the shaft. Sometimes we'll actually drill and tap and set screw on top of the key, or we will set screw at 90 degrees on the shaft, so this isn't moving back and forth, but again creating that drive between the shaft and this sleeve here. Again, this is a keyway which is in the bore. The key seat will be in the shaft. The idea is to create drive from one moving component to another component.